and that way they can just see how we do things and build some confidence, and then maybe fund the next one that comes up.
Perfect. Okay. All right.
I have a question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, Kimo.
Okay, so I guess since Greg was talking about like the private money lending, but so say someone wanted to sell a property and do like a 1031, is there any programs to like slide that money to avoid capital gains if you're becoming a private lender?
Actually, we just closed a loan that somebody did that. Yeah, Scott, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we just actually, that's about it. We just closed the loan. The guy had about 300,000 that he had to put in. It's actually 304, and the title company only can go towards the purchase, not closing costs, no points, nothing. And yeah, that just closed actually today. So that was a big deal. It was like 1.6, and they were putting 300,000 down. So we can do those all day long.
Okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
you can, I think, like, let's say like Greg guys have a deal, and you're selling your house and you want to do a 1031, you can use your funds from your sale towards the purchase only though of the property. There
Right.
was some, so like for our client, his leverage was too high, so we have to drop the leverage, right, Scott?
Yeah, because they had to use the full amount of the 304,000. He was at about 90%. So we had to drop it to about 86, something like that on the purchase. So we had to put in the full amount on that.
And what else? There was other restrictions, right? Like they had to be on title.
Yeah.
They had to be
That was a guarantor. They had to be a guarantor. Yeah.
Did they have to be the only person on the deal, or?
Paolo knows on that end. Ty, how did it end up? Was he the only person on it?
So pretty much it's supposed to be the sole guarantor in the entity. We can do it to where it's like a dual entity and put two on there, but it takes a little longer. It's just something that we need to know up front. So we had to scramble at the end to make it work, but we were able to get that done with just the sole entity. And but pretty much the only holdup was the title company that was holding the funds in escrow for the 1031. They just needed things done their way. So as long as we know like exactly whatever they want up front, then we can definitely, make it work. And just, their biggest problem was really the sole guarantor on the entity. So if it's something that you can avoid being the sole guarantor on the, or, avoid having multiple people on there, then it's an easy, simple process. If you want to have multiple people on it, then it's something that we can do, but it's just a little bit more difficult. So.
Got it. Okay. Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kimo, you can use it. It's kind of logistically challenging. I guess the logistics are challenging because it's timing, right, with the 1031. So
essentially it sounds like you can just be part of the purchase, but not just solely a private money lender. So it's just structuring it as like a co-buyer then?
Yeah. So it's still you using the funds to acquire an investment property, another investment property. So if you have partners on the deal, it's a little hard. So I don't know how that may not work with Greg guys, because it sounds like you have to be the sole person on on title or on the entity. So
Okay.
It may depend on, the title company that's holding it in escrow. This specific one, I think it was through Old Republic. They wanted it done that way to where it can be the sole guarantor. It depends on state and it depends on the title company that's holding the 1031. So.
Got it. Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kimo. So does anybody have, well, actually, before I move on, Kimo, so are you selling a house right now?
No, I'm not really, but I have a relative who's they want to sell because they're kind of tired of being a landlord, but they had like a financial person introduce them to like the DST. I don't know if you guys if ever heard like a DST. And like
Yes.
I don't know, I was doing some research on it, and she was kind of asking my opinion, and so I just thought I'd propose it to the group if anyone had anything to get around the capital gains without still being a landlord type of deal. So
Yeah. So I did hear about that, the DST. And actually, Dante has more information. I don't think he's on the call today,
yeah,
but I'll put his contact in the chat. That way, maybe you can contact. Actually, Kimo, can you put your number in the chat or send it to me privately if you want, whichever works for you.
okay.
Okay, cool. I had to jump off, but yeah, I'll put you in touch with Dante because actually I want to learn about that too. The 1030, rolling funds from a 1031 exchange into EST vehicle, I guess you call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. So
Okay.
yeah, send that to me. Send me your contact, and then I'll put you in touch with Dante, and maybe we'll learn about it and present it back to the group. But yeah, 1031. I mean, it's great to avoid capital gains and stuff or defer taxes. So especially, actually, I don't know if this is. I don't know if this is how true this is, but I know that I've heard from multiple people, and I haven't looked into it because I don't pay attention. That on Biden's plan, he's proposing increasing capital gains by 2.5 times what it is right now. And not only that, extending the time frame. So basically from 1 year to 2 years. So I don't know how true that is, but I hope not. I mean, that's gonna be a hard tax for equity guys like myself. The
Never mind, we're not looking for flips anymore.
yeah, exactly. Right. So just a heads up, I think maybe we should start paying attention to what's going on in the Capitol. But it's interesting times, man. Interesting times. I don't know if has anyone else heard of that?
I'd heard a couple of things about some of his different tax proposals in regards to real estate, and he doesn't seem like he's the most friendly for real estate investors.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Corey,
forget I saw-
somebody else had a question in there. If they've considered an installment sale. So Eric was asking in the chat.
I actually have no idea. Does anybody else know?
Yeah, so there are different ways to structure that if you want to kind of punt it down the road. You can look at a monetized installment sale. That's something that's been around for a while. Agriculture has been sold through land installment contracts. So if you structure it well enough, and I think the guys at Anderson, they're able to maneuver a few of those sales very, very well. And I just learned over a few days ago that you can actually give it to a nonprofit, right? So there's some really creative things that you start looking at. And with Biden, and from my standpoint is, if Biden wins the election, whatever he's going to say in the campaign trail is going to be just to get the voters to win, right? Same thing with any presidential election year. So I don't even know if I can take that with a grain of salt, because you still need Congress to approve that. That's the other half of it, right? So as an investor, I say, okay, well, you take the opportunity now. If inflation is going to come up, if you can get it at today's price at the installment sale, well, price is only going to increase down the road. So it's advantageous. And there are ways to kind of create that. So that might be something worth looking into and just structuring it in a different way.
Yeah, I love it. I got to keep eyes, and you're 100% right. Just because whatever they're saying now doesn't mean that's actually going to happen, right? Congress got to approve, and then that's if they follow through on their word, which is, who knows? So, Okay. Well, moving on, I wanted to kind of just talk about maybe call on some people, if maybe ask some volunteers in different parts of the country to see what their market, your market is doing locally. And maybe I want to call on Troy, who's out there in Washington. Troy, what are you seeing up there in Washington?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, Kohat probably has a better kind of, finger on the pulse as far as everything goes, but it's interesting because we're actually seeing a lot of houses go on the market. I think just given the, just in our neighborhood alone, it was, I don't know what the numbers look like, but it just feels like there's a lot more houses and people we know are just moving out of the city. I mean, people kind of going through this pandemic and everything else that's going on, I think, and, the homelessness crisis and the cost of living and everything else, people are moving out of $1 million homes and moving to like Bainbridge Island and other smaller towns, even Eastern Washington. So literally just in our neighborhood, we know 5 or 6 people that either are moving or have moved within the last 2 or 3 months. So that's interesting. Now, home prices seem to be pretty stable. People are asking slightly above or even slightly below based on the conversations that we've had. But yeah, I mean, inventory is still moving. I think what happens in Seattle is that you still have this, although people aren't at work yet physically, there's this huge population of people that are at Amazon, and Amazon announced, another 10,000 jobs. What is it? 6 or 8 miles from Seattle in Bellevue. Facebook just acquired the REI headquarters. REI headquarters is here in Seattle, and REI built this gigantic complex also in Bellevue, and they decided not to move in and have everybody kind of just work remotely. And that's another 4,000 jobs for Facebook over the next several years. And so I think what's happening is these people who have been kind of...
Hey, it's just been a reservation online for
Hold on,
Tuesday.
Scott, you gotta mute. Sorry, Troy.
No, it's all right. So I think what's happened is a lot of people have kind of been in the queue, so to speak, to kind of get a house in certain neighborhoods in Seattle, and they just, are kind of waiting for the right time to do it. And then there's other people who are maybe on the fence about, hey, should I move out of Seattle and move, downgrade a little bit or get a place where I have bigger property. And so I think there's 2 dynamics that are happening as far as that goes. And I mean, that's kind of the stuff that we're witnessing here. But I mean, Amazon is hiring. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I'll see, 20, 30, 40 new job postings a day at Amazon here in Seattle. And so all those people need to live somewhere. So there's, the housing, it seems pretty active still.
Okay. Yeah, that's promising to hear. And Seattle, like, there's so many like Fortune 500 companies headquartered out there, right? So, are you guys seeing any issues from the fires over there?
Yeah, I lost count of the days. Like, I'm looking outside now and I literally can't see, more than like a quarter mile from our house.
Really?
Yeah, and we're about 3 miles from downtown Seattle. It's been, I don't know, it's been at least 7 days
Wow.
of like quote unquote very unhealthy air. So you're not even really supposed to spend time outside at all. They're saying it's supposed to clear up tomorrow at noon, but they keep changing the advisory, so we'll see.
Wow. Well, stay safe over there, man.
Yeah, it's been an interesting 2020 for everybody, right?
Yeah, yes, right. Well, yeah, thanks, Troy, for that.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, Pearson, you want to talk about what you're seeing in Florida?
Yeah. So, from my work, for my job, I focus on the high end market. So I'm seeing a lot of people coming from New York, Chicago. I think most people saw that coming, but from that, I think it's been creating a lot of issues for vacancy in New York. We've been having a great ride with it. I'm looking at the stats right now for single family homes in Miami. Since March, we've gone up 75,000 on the median list price, and we've reduced our days on market by about a week. So right now we're averaging, looks like, about 32 days on market. So things are moving. Inventory's low. I was just checking out what we were adding to market versus taking off the market as far as new listings versus sales. And it looks like, let me just pull up the numbers to have them in front of me. In the past week, I think we've added about 1,000 properties to the market. We've closed 727, and we have another 1,000 pending behind it. So
Nice.
things are moving. There's definitely going to be supply issues where people are looking. The prices are high because of that. I mean, $75,000 up in the past 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So
Pretty much all the way around, like most city, like markets are seeing an increase, in the housing market, except for like areas like New York. Like, is there anybody on the call from New York or doing business in New York? I'd be really interested to hear what's going on over there.
So I can tell you from on a perspective down here, what we've found, the people coming from New York, I think they're leaving apartment lifestyle and they're getting down to South Florida and they're going for homes. The apartments for a while, especially at the beginning of COVID, took a huge hit. They weren't moving. No one was interested in owning a box in the sky again.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. John Hornick is from New York and New Jersey, and yeah, he was saying like, it's pretty bad. So
I've heard some reports about. I mean, it looks like they're going to be really struggling. I think they have 15% less occupancy than they had. I mean, it seems like they're getting smoked by this. And with the work from home, a lot of people from Miami, New York, they go back and forth a lot. A lot of people have gone up from Miami to New York to get jobs, lived there for a couple of years, and once this happened, they let their leases roll and came back down.
Yeah.
So it's been great for us. I don't know what's going to happen to the local economy down here. We're heavily service industry type of location, so we'll see what happens. I know Spotify, they're opening up a new office down here. They're starting that project for the next couple of months. I've heard some talk about Amazon coming to the area and bringing some more jobs, so we'll see what that will do.
Yeah, that's always key to keep eyes on, right? Because like they're market movers. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I heard Amazon is going to be setting up to compete with Shopify or Spotify.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I mean, they're both in that music market. I mean, it's them with Apple. They're all having a hard time together fighting.
Yeah, so I think they're going to be making a big push to compete with Spotify and Apple for podcasting. So, yeah.
It'll definitely be interesting to see how that shakes out and what effects that might have on our markets, if you will.
Yeah, it's really important. I like to keep eyes on like the big corporations, like what moves are they making? Because obviously, if they're going into an area, like if Amazon's setting up shop or something, it's just they bring the market with them pretty much. They thousands of jobs, families moving into that area. It's just there's going to be a lot of inventory and demand.
Another good one that people have been using for indicators more recently is Tesla. Tesla comes in with the new areas and they provide great jobs, great paying jobs. They workforce housing to certain areas. Scott, I think up in your area, you have one coming up in Tampa.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know. Gene, my buddy Gene, he was on the call, I think, but he was living in Reno and working on something with Tesla, I think, the electric side. So, but they're definitely like guys to keep eyes on. Yeah, Tesla.
Yeah, Pearson, I'm sorry. Were you asking me something before?
No, I was saying, I think there's a couple new Tesla locations coming up in your area that it's not your specifically your area, it's up in Tampa, but they're going to be going into some of the Class C housing areas, which I think will create a lot of opportunities for investments up there.
Yeah, I heard something vaguely about that. It's possible. Yeah, it's about an hour from me, but yeah.
It's like that's like your next door neighbor in Florida.
That's right, exactly. I just stay on the Keys. That's it. So I'm out of it.
Scott, since you deal with most of our capital partners on the daily basis, I guess what are you seeing come through our pipeline for requests? And we did an ad on Bigger Pockets, and like it crashed our website. The traffic from Bigger Pockets, like it was down for like maybe, I don't know how long it was down. It was down overnight though, right? So a few hours or something. But I know we're getting a lot of inquiries and stuff. Like what are you seeing mostly? Is it mostly buy, fix, sell, long-term rental loans?
A lot of people are doing long-term rental loans now. And now that the rates have come down, they're really all over it. A lot of people I'm putting into bridge loans if they want to fix it up, and then when they stabilize, we're going to just put them straight into a refi, which we do. So that's been a big request. But what we found out of, I'd say about 50 new borrowers that we have now this week, most of them, they're lower price points. So just an idea. I mean, I talked to one guy. We try to keep it a minimum of 250, but we'll go down for the bigger pocket people. The guy actually told me he's buying houses for $100 a piece. I said $100. I swear to God, he's putting like 30. I don't even know where he was from. I swear he's buying them in auctions and he's putting like 30,000 and selling them for like 50. Stuff like that. So it's across the board really, but long-term rentals are really coming into play now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, what I want to do is I had a meeting yesterday. Layla and I had a meeting with Daniel Kong. Daniel's usually on. He's not on today. I think he might be on the conference, but I think I'm gonna ask Daniel if he can come on next week to speak because he had so much great information about how to I guess maximize your chances of getting your loan approved and kind of not hitting your maximum 10 investment properties. Apparently that, limit that Fannie sets, so he had a lot of great information that I think, we can share here. And I got to check with him because I asked him last night if he wanted to come on and share it. He said, yeah, absolutely. But I didn't tell him like next week, Friday. So like, I'm going to try to get him on because there's so much great information that he shared that I want to make sure that, it gets passed along to everybody here. Because eventually the goal is financial freedom, right? Passive income. And, if you're an equity investor and you're doing fix and flip projects or ground up development, that's a good play, but eventually we should be moving in towards, wealth creation in a sense of getting passive income and, passive residual predictable income that can keep us on a path to where we can build a legacy for all of our families, right? So I'm going to try to get Daniel on to talk about that. And we're going to kind of wrap this week up a little short and just kind of do a hangout here. I'm going to hang out online and, for a few minutes, because I know there's the Taros event going on. If anybody wants to jump in on that event, there's some great speakers. I know Brandon Turner is on there, Ryan Murdoch, Thatch is going to be speaking, Robert Kiyosaki, Ken McElroy, Tucker Merrihew. So a lot of our, colleagues and friends, and they all have great information and different styles too, right? So it's great networking in there too, I heard. So I'll be on there, trying to meet some new people and see if we can build some relationships and help all of our businesses, and I'm going to try to get some of those guys speaking at Taro's event to come on, 1 week or another to our call and share what they got, and see what type of opportunities that they have, they see upon the horizon. So does anybody have any final words before we log off today? No? All righty. Hey, Tay, can I get an update on your project? How's the project going? Tay and Zasha have a project going out in Maui. Is Zasha on?
She was. I think she had to jump on in her car and leave. She was on earlier. So it's going actually super awesome, and so it's she's gonna turn it into a duplex. So upper 3-2 and the lower, trying to get it to a 1-bedroom, and then refinance out of that. So that's the initial plan. But the lot is big enough to build a separate dwelling, and she can get permit for the lower level to be converted to a 3-2. So I think that's the long-term vision for that place. As far as where they're at, like right now they're working on the electrical. She had a couple of days like where there was nothing going on because she couldn't get an electrician to go in.
Oh,
But yeah,
okay.
that's where they're at right now. So
Nice.
they haven't closed up all the walls. Oh,
Oh,
and I think
Jay,
there
you guys
was
should call me when you need
wait, who was that?
You're cutting
Good,
out,
Greg.
Greg.
Oh, Greg.
electrician.
Yeah, well, she's managing the project, so I'm really kind of telling you guys what she tells me. Yeah, so I know, yeah, yesterday she had to go buy more electrical wires because there was I guess rodents ate some wires in there, so they ended up needing more material, but that's where they're at right now. Oh, and then she kind of changed the layout of the kitchens, so there's a bit of plumbing happening today.
What's the exit strategy on that? Is she just gonna refinance and hold it or sell
Yes,
it?
it's a buy and hold. It's a buy and hold. If she does sell it, I mean, as of right now, her mindset is if she does sell it, it would be later, well after the refi, because I guess her accountant talked to her, and like her taxes would be through the roof if she were to sell it this year. So she's gonna sort of like an initial burr and refi out of that in as soon as possible, and pay off her PML then, and then kind of like start the process, the permit process to turn the downstairs into a full 3-2 and the building permit for the separate dwelling and all that. So after the refi, she just wants to like keep this initial transaction really clean.
Mm-hmm.
And because she can't refi if there are open permits, right? So just get out of this as is and then work on the rest. I think she's probably got maybe not even 2 more months on the whole rehab. Like they made a lot of progress already.
Good. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jay, for that. I want to hopefully when she's done and you guys can do like a deal.
I hope so. Deal
Yeah,
analysis. Yeah.
nice. If anybody too on the call has a deal that they've done recently or something that they want to present to the group, like feel free to reach out to us. I love looking at other people's deals, like how they found it, how they funded it, any learning lessons, and then of course the numbers, right? What they bought it for, what you fixed it up for, and sold or refied for, something like that. So,
To the question of deals and everything of that nature, I had a quick question, Corey. Things are starting to ramp up down here for foreclosures, and I'm seeing a lot of potential deals. Is there, once they've entered into the foreclosure auction list and they're set for October, let's say, is there a way to get in between before that transaction goes to auction, or is it usually at that point too late?
usually there is.
Depends on which state you're in.
Florida.
I don't know if Greg's talking or not. He was cutting out, but it's hard tracking down that whoever's like managing, like the asset manager. But if you can get a hold of first finding out, who's holding the note, like who's
Sorry.
And then finding out who's actually in charge, or who's the asset manager managing that. Then you can might be able to sneak in, but during
Okay.
these times, I don't know. I don't know how they're managing all the foreclosures that they're holding
Oh.
on to right now.
So I
It
have,
depends,
it's
too.
not, oh, sorry.
Oh, no,
Hey,
you
like-
can also try contacting if it's a judicial foreclosure. Try contacting the attorney,
Okay.
or if it's a bank, right? And then sometimes they can present offers to the bank. You can also try contacting the owner if they have been able to find them. Just go through court documents and see what the address is of where they're located. And you can try contacting them, and then they could maybe step in and do some kind of like the transfer to you, working with the bank, right? So it can make it easier. Sometimes the attorneys, they don't talk to outside people other than the person who's being foreclosed on. And then in some states, like you can redeem up to like maybe the day before or something. So yes, it's super state, even county specific. But one avenue is either contacting the bank's attorney or the person who actually owns it being foreclosed upon, and see if they can intercede with you and stuff.
And that had been the approach that I was thinking of taking, was reaching out to the owner who's getting foreclosed on, to reach out to them and see if we can, because the bank usually wants to put it out to market first, and they'll look for 2 or 3 fold of what they actually need.
Is the has it finished foreclosing or it's still in the?
So the lease penance is done, and they've been given the right to proceed to foreclosure from the courts. And at this point, they're on the auction block, if you will. The ones that I'm looking at specifically.
What is the redemption laws around redemption in Florida?
That I'll have to check out.
Yeah, that's always
It's important too.
good to know, right?
I appreciate that. I didn't, to be honest, I didn't have that on my radar. So thank you for that. I'm going to check that out now.
And that could also be county specific too.
I think it is. Miami's, Florida's pretty, there's a lot, it does vary a lot between counties.
Yeah. Has anyone heard of that actually being fulfilled, the redemption period? Some, like a homeowner actually coming back and taking their house back?
I feel like that would have to happen on the court steps.
Yeah, that's
Only through tax lien certificates, but not actual home.
right. Here's a tip that I learned early on. One of my friends and mentors. So he said, make sure if you're buying a foreclosure and if you're in like a judicial state, if the homeowner's still living in the house, don't buy it, because he's been stuck for like almost 7 years now. He bought a property at auction. The homeowner was living in it, and but he figured, oh, I own it, so I can get him removed, like a tenant and stuff. It's like, no, that's not the case, because what happened is this guy knew how to fight the foreclosure and basically tie it up indefinitely, so he's basically living there free now. And so what happened was, back in the subprime, mortgage crisis, the loans were just, banks were going belly up. The notes were being chopped up and sold, so they couldn't track it. They couldn't track who was actually holding the note, so they couldn't really enforce the foreclosure and get him out. Get the homeowner out, because he was fighting it and using that, saying that, look, you guys can't find my note anyways, so how can you prove that I even have debt on this property? Like, if I pay this, so to this day he's still living in there. So just heads up, be careful if you're buying at auction or if you're buying a foreclosure and the homeowner is still living in there. I'd think twice before going into that.
That's a great piece of advice. I appreciate that. I can definitely see how that would play out horrendously.
He was 6 figures in with attorney fees, and so.
What state is that in, Corey?
Big learning lesson. What was that, Elijah?
What state is that in?
In Hawaii.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sure, I know.
So pretty crazy, but yeah, don't do that.
I have a question
scary.
Kind of about auctions, sort of. So has anybody done ground up construction in Washington?
Ooh, we haven't done ground up in Washington, actually. we've pretty much torn everything out, pretty
Yeah.
much ground up, but like we haven't officially done like ground up work. We're taking raw land. Who else is in Washington?
There's because there was that viewing auction, 5 acres in Renton, right in a residential area that was sold. I was looking to buy it, but I had no experience in Washington or even know the topography of the land, so I didn't bid. But it was super cheap, I think, compared to what it was worth. But
I think Renton is still King County.
yeah,
Is
it's
that
King
right?
County.
Yeah, King County. Okay.
King County.
So we had definitely permit issues with King County. It's kind of like Honolulu. We had 2 like luxury flips out in Mercer Island.
Okay.
And just getting through the permitting process out there it was rough. And then, you guys want to hear a nightmare story about permits? So we bought this fire station in Kirkland, and so we were negotiating with the city to buy it, and we're asking about converting the zoning to a residential, right? And they're like, "Oh, don't worry about that. Don't worry about permits. Don't worry about the zoning. We'll get you guys changed. And don't worry about the permits. I mean, it's all to code. Obviously, it's a fire station. So we're like, okay, the city's on our side. Yes, let's go. And then we buy it, and then of course that's not how it went down. So it's just delay after delay, and so much so where Keiko was thinking about, like, man, we have grounds to like at least have our attorneys go talk to somebody in the city and make us deal. They don't want to have that out there that they did this, kind of to us, kind of wave the carrot and then throw it off the cliff. So but the other thing is, when I think in Kirkland, Washington, it was the first hot spot for COVID, I believe. And the first responders was the Kirkland that firehouse who we bought that house from, the fire station from. And they ended up all getting COVID when all this started happening in March. So it was pretty crazy. And the reason why I knew is because like I think it was like New York Times or something, they had a picture of the house. And it was like our house. I was like, that's our house. Like, why is that on New York Times? So I called Keiko, and Keiko was like, oh yeah, no, that's the fire. They're using it because the firehouse, that we bought the house from, got COVID. Like all of them got COVID. So it was kind of cool, or kind of weird to see it. Wasn't cool at the time, but yeah, that's a crazy permit. We're still kind of chugging through that project, but for Renton, I love Renton. Renton's a great area. We had 2 duplexes out there a couple of years ago, and then we sold them. But I like Renton because it's a balance between like an equity market and a cash flow market. Like you can still get some nice cash flow out there.
Yeah,
So,
and the property was right next to houses that are like $500,000. I mean, I don't really know the area. I just kind of found it last minute, but I was like, oh, that would have been interesting.
yeah,
But
yeah.
there's some
Don't
things
you
out
live in Hawaii?
I
Elijah,
do.
you live in Honolulu,
I do,
right?
so it made it harder to visit. But for the price
yeah.
it started at, it was super cheap. It was worth holding on to. And I was worried if I could even develop it. It was residential, and there's houses right around it. So I was assuming it was, but I didn't want to be stuck with 5 acres I couldn't use.
Yeah. Well, if you if you need help out there, like we have a lot of people from Seattle, like that area, the greater Seattle area, that can help look at stuff. Troy's over there. Yep, Troy. I
That'd
think
be
John
great. Yeah, in
Kim.
case it comes up again. I'm gonna look for like next year's one to see if they have anywhere
Yeah.
good deals.
Yeah, for sure. Nice. Layla, are you still on the line? Are you at
Yes,
the project?
I'm at Makaha.
Oh, okay. Ashley, are you still on the line? Ashley wanted an update. That's why, anyways, of like where we're at. So she might not be on the line. How's it looking? Which one? Are you at the 4-house one or the 6-house? Leila?
Oh, sorry, 6. I'm
Okay.
actually about to hop off because I got a Costa Bote.
Okay. What are you waiting for over there? Anything?
I'm just
Delivery?
standing here, just waiting to jump off because I have to Costa Bote. So
Okay.
just seeing.
Okay. Well, all right. I'll call you later.
Right.
All right. Who's the new? Man, there are so many new faces. I wanted to call on to see where they're at.